In this section, we're going to be talking about some basic advisor math computations that you're going to want to make sure you're very good at. Doing these sorts of computations in front of a client definitely give them a sense of confidence that you know what you're doing. If you struggle with these basic computations, you're going to lose credibility in the mind of your client or prospect. Let me give you an example. Let's say that a client comes to you, they have an IRA, and they need $10,000 from their IRA. Well, when you take money out of an IRA, it's of course taxable. Let's assume that the client is in the 20% tax bracket, and they want to net $10,000 after taxes. So there's some number they need to withdraw as their gross number minus 20% taxes to net them $10,000. Most clients, if you ask them, okay, how much do you need to gross? Most clients will tell you that they need $12,000 minus 20% to net $10,000. Hopefully you see that's not the case. Most clients will apply the 20% to the $10,000 and think that's what they need to gross. But if you took $12,000 minus 20%, so you multiply it by 0.8, this calculation actually results in $9,600, which does not get them the $10,000 they need. We need to figure out what this gross number needs to be in order to net the $10,000. To figure that out, what we need to do is take the net number, 10,000, divided by the inverse of 20%. The inverse is, of course, 0.8, which is 1 minus the 0.2. 10,000 divided by 0.8, we're backing out the taxes, is $12,500. So in this example, $12,500 is the gross number. 20% of $12,500 is $2,500. So if we removed 2,500, 20%, from this number, you get 10,000. So it is not as simple as applying the tax to the net. You have to apply the inverse of the tax to the net, divide it out, and that's what gives you the gross. It seems simple, but I promise you, when you're in front of a client and you figure the tax rate is 23% or 28%, or if the net number needs to be $8,760, it's not something you can simply do in your head. So you need to get very good at doing this on the fly in front of a client. Let's use a slightly more abstract example, but it's still going to be very much a real-world example. Let's say you need to figure out the gross number with 28% withholding, and the client needs, for whatever reason, $9,300. Maybe they're remodeling a bathroom or something, or a kitchen, and they need $9,300 to pay the contractor, not a penny more, and you know that that's going to be the effective tax rate for the withdrawal. Well, you can of course do the math in your head for this part, but I want to show you the calculation so you can just see where it comes from. 28% expressed as a decimal is of course 0.28%. So we need the inverse. 1 minus 0.28, and of course we can do the math in our head, but we're just going to do it here just for kicks, equals 0.72. We need to take the net number, $9,300, divided by 0.72, and that will give us the gross number of $12,916.67. That gives us the precise gross number less 28% to net exactly what the client needs to finish their remodeling project. Again, doing that very clearly in front of a client on the board gives you a lot of credibility. This is not something most people know how to do, believe it or not, and you, of course, may not have known how to do it either. When I first started as a financial advisor, I had to sit down and think about this calculation. How do I make this work? How do I solve for this number? And then you kind of teach yourself how to do it. It becomes second nature, no problem at all. That is a very common computation you're going to probably need to do several times per week as you build your client base. A lot of people, of course, naturally need money from their accounts. We're going to switch gears to a different computation now that you're also going to run into a lot. We're going to do it two different ways. Let's say someone has a $300,000 nest egg and they want to take a 5% income stream from that account. Now, of course, this sort of nice, easy, round number is easy to do. 5% income stream, and let's say you wanted to know what that is. I know this is simple. Bear with me here. I'm going to expand on this in a second. $300,000, 5%. All you're going to do, of course, is take the $300,000 times 5% as the decimal, which is 0.05. You do that on your calculator. It's, of course, $15,000 of cash flow. All you do, of course, is multiply this number by the percent expressed as a decimal, and it gives you the cash flow stream that's generated. Now, this is, of course, easy to understand, but what if you wanted to go the other way? Well, naturally, you multiplied by 0.05 to figure this out. So if you wanted to know going the opposite way, you would divide by 0.05. Here's what I mean by this. Let's say someone came to you and they need to gross $14,500 per year of extra cash flow from their investments. They need to gross that per year. And let's say that they decided they were going to withdraw a 4% income stream from their account. The question becomes, how much money do they need up here to take a 4% income stream and have that 4% income stream equal $14,500? Well, just like we multiplied by 5% to get to this number, we need to divide by 4% to get to that number. So all we're going to do is take $14,500 divided by 0.04, 4% is the decimal, and that's going to give us that top line number. 14,500 divided by 0.04 is $362,500. Most people can't figure out in their head how to get from here to here. With a nice round number like this, it's pretty easy to figure out that 5% of 300,000 is 15,000. But to back off a not so round number with a not so common percentage and figure out that big amount isn't as easy for people to do. For you to simply do it on the fly, really fast with your calculator, again, it creates some credibility. What we've figured out so far is how to back off the taxes, turning net into gross, and you've seen how to figure out the lump sum when you know what the cash flow needs to be. Let me bring all these together for you here right now. I don't know if you've already watched Growth and Income Bucket presentation. If you haven't, this won't necessarily hit home quite so much. But if you haven't, I still want you to watch this because it'll tie everything together for you. Let's say that you've got someone with a $1 million nest egg. And let's say they're looking for a $33,000. Let me back up. They're looking for a $20,000 net withdrawal stream from their account, net. We know that 15% is going to be the tax bracket. And let's assume that they're going to use a tactical income solution portfolio that currently pays a 3.55% dividend stream. And the question you need to figure out is how much money needs to go in the income bucket to net this after taxes with a yield of this. Simply what's happening here is we've got a $1 million nest egg that we're going to divide into growth and income. There's going to be a certain amount of money that goes over here, another amount of money that goes over there. From this bucket, they're going to withdraw a 3.55% income stream, which will gross them this much money. After they gross money, we need to withhold minus 15% in taxes. And when that's all said and done, we need that number to equal $20,000 per year net. This scenario is extremely common in the financial planning practice you're going to run, and you need to get very good at figuring all this out right in front of the client on the fly and give them that aha moment of this person really knows what they're doing. So we know to go from here to here, we need to divide by the inverse of that tax. So $20,000 divided by 0.85. I need to take $20,000 divided by 1 minus 0.15, which of course equals 0.85, equals X, what we're solving for. $20,000 divided by 0.85 equals $23,529. We know what we need to gross. Now let's figure out how big this bucket needs to be, assuming a distribution rate of 3.55% to gross us this. I've already got that number in my calculator because I already did 20,000 divided by 0.85, gave me that. Now I need to divide by this decimal. Divided by 0.0355 equals $662,800. If I were to just forget about explaining this, I'll show you how fast this can be done. 20,000 divided by 0.85 equals 23 divided by 0.0355. So imagine being in front of a client. That took about 10 seconds, probably less. You're in front of a client. You've done a little budget worksheet with them. You know that with their pension and or Social Security, there's a shortfall to the income they need. You realize there's a $20,000 a year net shortfall, and 10 seconds later, you tell them, in order to fill in that shortfall, we need to put $662,800 in the income bucket. And they're going to look at you like, how did you figure that out so fast? How do you know? You're going to show them that simple math. You're going to back out that number. And then you'll take the $1 million minus the $662,800, and you'll be left with $337,200 in the growth bucket. And then the whole presentation shifts to how the growth and income buckets work in tandem with each other. That's a whole other video that I'm not going to go through here. But what I want you to get really, really, really good at is going from here to here to here to here. Now, you're going to have situations where you're going to need to do some planning for your clients. Of course, we all do planning for all of our clients, but I'll show you what I mean here. Let's say that the client only had $570,000 to their name instead of $1 million. Well, having 570 is certainly not going to create 662 right now. But what you'll be able to do is say, okay, you can't retire right now, or maybe you've forecasted what they'll need to retire, and you know that we need to get that 570 up to this level over a certain number of years at a certain growth rate, and we want to actually shoot for a higher number so we can have some more money to put in the growth bucket. You'll be able to do all those calculations to figure all that stuff out on the fly as well if you need to, using your time value of money keys. In this video, I'm not going to go through time value of money. That is something that's easier taught in person. But I want you to know that as simple as these computations look, you might think to yourself, oh, that's easy, I got it, or piece of cake. You need to challenge yourself to practice these. You cannot, under any circumstance, fumble around with your calculator trying to get to the right answer. Maybe you hit the wrong button in front of the client, or you divide by 0.15 instead of by 0.85. You can't make those mistakes. You're trying to gain credibility and a sense of expertise in front of the client. If you're fumbling through this, or if you're under pressure in front of a $3 million client and you don't want to look bad, and you fumble through something and you divide by something when you should have multiplied by something, I promise you, it paints you in a bad light when you fumble through that. You need to practice, be crisp. Part of Sam's School is going to be giving you some story problems, quizzing you in front of a group so you can get this stuff down pat, so you're very, very good at it. Practice those calculations. We'll worry about time value of money face to face when we're in front of each other. So, very basic stuff that's really not so basic when you drill down into it. You're going to use it all the time.